Imagine waking up in a village filled with fire, helicopters, and screaming children. Then someone points at one country and says, "They started everything." Sounds simple, sounds clean, sounds easy to believe. But history becomes terrifying when the truth refuses to stay simple. Many people think the Vietnam War began because America suddenly invaded Vietnam. Others believe America only tried stopping communism from spreading across Asia. Both sides shout, both sides blame. But the real story looks more like a giant domino chain collapsing for decades. To understand this war, you must travel back before American soldiers even arrived. Back when Vietnam was still controlled by France. Back when the world was breaking apart after World War II. Colonial empires were dying everywhere. People wanted independence. Vietnam wanted freedom too. A revolutionary leader named Ho Chi Minh became the symbol of resistance. Many Vietnamese saw him as a hero fighting colonial control, but the Cold War changed everything. Suddenly, every conflict became a global chess match. America feared communism more than almost anything. After Chinese Communist Revolution, fear exploded inside Washington. Politicians imagined all of Asia turning red, one country at a time. They called it the Domino Theory. Lose one country, lose them all. So when France struggled to control Vietnam, America began supporting France financially. Not with huge armies yet, just money, weapons, and political support. Already the fire was growing long before American combat troops landed. Then came the massive shock. France lost badly at Battle of Dien Bien Phu. Colonial rule collapsed. Vietnam was temporarily divided into North and South. Elections were supposed to reunify the country later. But fear poisoned everything. America worried communist forces would win those elections. South Vietnam became backed heavily by the United States. North Vietnam received support from communist allies like China and the Soviet Union. Suddenly, Vietnam was no longer just Vietnam. It became the battlefield of giant superpowers. And this is where the argument becomes explosive. Did America create the war? Not exactly. Fighting already existed before major American military involvement. Vietnam had been trapped inside anti-colonial struggles and civil conflict for years. But did America massively expand and intensify the war? Absolutely. At first, America sent advisors. Then, more advisors. Then, more weapons. Then, secret operations. Then came the terrifying spiral nobody could stop. The Gulf of Tonkin incident changed everything. In 1964, reports claimed North Vietnamese forces attacked American ships. Fear and anger erupted across the United States. Congress gave President Lyndon B. said, "Johnson, broad, military power." But here comes the twist that still haunts historians today. One reported attack may never have happened the way officials described it. Confusion, radar mistakes, panic, and political pressure mixed together like gasoline near a flame. Yet, the incident became the doorway to full-scale war. Then, America unleashed enormous military force. Hundreds of thousands of American soldiers entered Vietnam. Bombs rained across forests and villages. Napalm burned landscapes into nightmares. Helicopters filled the skies day and night. Entire jungles disappeared under chemical defoliants like Agent Orange. But North Vietnamese fighters and the Viet Cong refused to collapse. That shocked America completely. The United States had superior weapons, superior aircraft, massive funding, and technological advantages. Yet, guerrilla warfare turned every jungle path into a trap. Every farmer could be a spy. Every tunnel could hide soldiers. Fear became permanent. American troops faced brutal ambushes. Vietnamese civilians faced devastating destruction. Nobody escaped the horror cleanly. And then came one of history's darkest contradictions. America claimed it was defending freedom. North Vietnam claimed it was defending independence. South Vietnam struggled with corruption and instability. Communist forces used ruthless tactics too. Civilians were trapped between ideologies larger than themselves. The war stopped being black and white. Villages were destroyed by bombings. Assassinations spread terror. Young American soldiers returned home traumatized forever. Vietnamese families lost generations. Children grew up surrounded by death before learning basic arithmetic. Then, the Tet Offensive exploded in 1968. Communist forces launched massive surprise attacks across South Vietnam. Militarily, the offensive caused huge communist casualties, but psychologically, it shattered American confidence. Why? Because the American public had been told victory was near. Then suddenly, television screens showed chaos everywhere. fighting inside cities, gunfire near embassies, streets filled with panic. The war entered American living rooms every night. People started asking terrifying questions. If America was winning, why did the war still look endless? If freedom was being protected, why were villages burning? If communism was being contained, why were body counts climbing endlessly? Protests exploded across America. Students marched in the streets, veterans questioned the mission, families watched coffins return home weekly, trust in government began collapsing. Meanwhile, Vietnam itself became hell on earth. The bombing campaigns intensified. Civilians fled constantly. Entire regions became battle zones. Farmers lost land. Children lost parents. Fear became normal daily life. And here is the uncomfortable reality many people avoid. Both sides committed terrible acts. Some Americans committed atrocities, like the horrifying My Lai massacre. Innocent civilians died brutally. The event shocked the world once exposed. But communist forces also executed civilians, used terror tactics, and crushed opposition violently in areas they controlled. The suffering spread everywhere. No side escaped moral stains. That is why historians still argue endlessly today. Was America trying to stop authoritarian communism? Yes, many leaders genuinely believe that. Did America also support unstable governments and escalate destruction massively? Yes. Was North Vietnam fighting for independence after colonial oppression? Many Vietnamese believed so deeply. Did communist leadership also impose harsh control and deadly violence? Also, yes. History becomes dangerous when people force complicated tragedies into simple slogans. The Vietnam War was not born from one single villain pressing a giant red button. It emerged from colonialism, Cold War paranoia, nationalism, ideology, fear, political ambition, and endless human miscalculations crashing together. And the consequences became catastrophic. More than 58,000 American soldiers died. Millions of Vietnamese civilians and fighters died. Cambodia and Laos were pulled into devastation too. Entire generations carried trauma silently for decades. Then came the final collapse. In 1975, fall of Saigon marked the end of the war. Helicopters evacuated desperate people from rooftops. Images of chaos spread worldwide instantly. South Vietnam disappeared. Vietnam became unified under communist control. For America, the war became a scar that never fully healed. For Vietnam, victory came with unimaginable destruction. And maybe the strangest part is this. Both sides believed they were saving the future. That is what makes wars so terrifying. Nations rarely enter conflicts believing they are evil. Most believe they are protecting something important: security, freedom, survival, independence, justice. But once fear takes control, truth becomes blurry fast. So, did America start the Vietnam War? Not from the absolute beginning. The roots existed earlier through colonial conflict and Vietnamese resistance against foreign control. But America undeniably transformed the conflict into a gigantic international war that reshaped global history forever. That answer frustrates people because it refuses simplicity. Some want America entirely innocent, others want America entirely guilty. Real history refuses both extremes. The Vietnam War teaches a brutal lesson about power and ideology. When superpowers treat smaller nations like chessboards, ordinary people pay the highest price. Even today, unexploded bombs still injure civilians in former war zones. Families still search for missing relatives. Veterans still carry psychological wounds decades later. History never truly stays buried underground. And maybe that is the most chilling truth of all. Wars do not end when the shooting stops. They continue inside memories, politics, families, and national identity for generations. So next time someone says the Vietnam War was simple, remember this story. Remember the colonial shadows. Remember the Cold War panic. Remember the propaganda from every side. Remember the civilians trapped in the middle while giant powers fought over ideology. Because history becomes dangerous the moment humans stop questioning easy answers. If this story changed how you see history, support the channel Why and How with a like, a comment, and a subscribe. Tell us your opinion below. Was the Vietnam War inevitable, or could the disaster have been avoided before millions suffered forever?